Hey folks, welcome back. In this video, I'll teach you how to quickly calculate the square root of any perfect square, entirely in your head. For centuries, humans have been using various methods to simplify complex math, and today I'll share one of those methods with you. This technique will be very helpful for students, particularly for those who are preparing for competitive exams. To get started, you need to know the basic square values. That is, you need to memorize the squares of numbers from 0 to 9. Here, if you pay close attention to the last digit of each square, you'll notice that some squares share the same last digit. 1 squared and 9 squared, both end in 1. 2 squared and 8 squared end in 4. 3 squared and 7 squared end in 9. And 4 squared and 6 squared end in 6. Square of 0 ends in 0, which is unique, and the square of 5 ends in 5, which is also different from all the other squares. Once you've memorized these values, you're ready to dive into the method. Let me illustrate the method with an example. Starting with a simple one. Calculating the square root of 6400. First, look at the last digit of 6400, which is 0. Now identify the square whose last digit is also 0. There is only one option, which is 0 squared. So place a 0 here. Next, cross the last two digits, leaving us with the number 64. Now find the square closest to 64, but not greater than 64. In this case, 64 is the perfect square of 8. So put 8 here. Thus the square root of 6400 is 80. I already said this was a simple example. However, the true value of this method will become evident when solving more complex examples. Let's proceed with another example. Calculating the square root of 9025. The last digit is 5 and there is only one option with 5, 5 squared equal to 25. So we put 5 here. Next we cross the last two digits, leaving us with 90. Now we need the square closest to 90, but not greater than it. The only option here is 9 squared equal to 81. So we put 9 here. Thus the square root of 9025 is 95. Now let's move on to a slightly more complex example. Calculating the square root of 6889. The last digit is 9, so there are two possible options. 3 squared equal to 9 and 7 squared equal to 49. So the answer can have either 3 or 7 as last digit. We'll decide the value after finding the first digit. So just cross the last two digits, leaving us with 68. Now find the perfect square closest to 68, but not greater than it. The only option is 8 squared equal to 64. So the first digit is 8. Now we have two possibilities. The square root of 6889 is either 83 or 87. To find the answer, we need to calculate the square of any number between 83 and 87. The easiest one is 85 squared. Because for numbers ending in 5, there is a simple method to calculate square. Take the part of the number before 5, in this case 8. Multiply it by 1 more than itself, that is 8 times 9 equal to 72. Now put 25 at the end. So, 85 squared is equal to 7225. Notice that 7225 is greater than 6889, meaning the root of 6889 is smaller than the root of 7225. Thus, the square root of 6889 is 83. This might seem complex at first, but it becomes much easier with practice. Let's try another example. Square root of 3364. We start with the last digit 4. The answer can end in 2 or 8. Next we cross the last two digits and look for the square closest to 33, but not greater than it. This will be 5 squared equal to 25. Now we have to find whether it is 52 or 58. To do this, we calculate the square of 55, which is right in the middle of 52 and 58. We take 5 and multiply it by 1 more than itself, which gives us 30. Put 25 at the end. Notice that 55 squared is equal to 3025, which is smaller than 3364. Therefore the square root of 3364 is 58. This method can be used to find the cube root of a perfect cube number too. As the first step, you need to memorize the cubes of the numbers from 0 to 9. The remaining procedure is very similar to the square root method, and it is even easier since each last digit of the cubes is unique. For example, let's calculate the cube root of 68921. We look for the cube whose last digit is 1. The only option is 1 cube equal to 1, so we put 1. Next we cross the last 3 digits and search for the cube closest to 68, but not greater than it. The only option is 4 cube equal to 64. So we put 4. Therefore the cube root of 68921 is 41. Cube roots are easier than square roots because the last digits of basic cube values are unique. So that was for this video. If it was helpful, make sure to like and subscribe.